and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alyssa. If you are new here, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel and like and comment on this video. Today is Thursday and this is when the video is supposed to go up, but it'll most likely go up tomorrow. I just could not think of any mental health content ideas. For some reason, my mind was just blanking, which was not very fun, but hello, I am back with another video. Today's video is going to be a Q&A, but specifically an addiction recovery Q&A, talking about sobriety, AA meetings, alcoholism, everything like that. I asked for people to comment questions on my TikTok, so I'm gonna go through those. First question is, how long have you been sober? And today is Thursday. Tomorrow is going to be my 4 months. So when this video is getting posted, I will be 4 months sober, which is very exciting, but also whenever I get close to an anniversary, I kind of just get in my brain and just start thinking about the last time that I drank, and it's kind of hard to feel good for myself and feel proud of myself when I'm having an anniversary, but I've been trying to be more mindful of all the positive things, and I'm gonna try to celebrate tomorrow, so that'll be fun. But 4 months sober. Next question is, when did you realize you struggled with addiction? I also have BPD, and last time I got drunk, I just started craving it more, and that's making me scared. I first realized that I had a problem with alcohol when it was around December of senior year, which was about like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. That was when the very extreme addiction kicked in, and I mainly realized it because I was hiding it from people and I was lying about it. I couldn't go a moment without being drunk, and it just was getting in the way of everything. School became really rough. School's already rough, but it just became worse. Like, I started doing absolutely nothing, and it messed up a lot of my relationships. And I think the main thing that just made me realize was that, like, I was putting alcohol over every single thing in my life. Also, when I started drinking alone, that was a big thing, because before I had justified it by being like, oh, I would just drink with friends because that's what all teenagers do. But then when I started drinking by myself, that's when I realized that there was kind of something wrong. Next question is, was there a turning point where you realized, I really need to get some help with this? You're doing so well. First of all, thank you very much. Second, I did not make the choice to go sober at first. I had a week where I went on a bender and I ended up overdosing because I tried to have an attempt, and I had to go to the hospital, and from there I was sent to inpatient, then to rehab. So it wasn't necessarily my choice. However, when I got out of rehab a month later, it was now my choice to stop drinking, but I had the absolute worst friends. They were extremely toxic, very unhealthy for me. All they wanted to do was go out and party, and I was very desperate for friends, so I would go out with them and continue to drink. So I didn't start getting sober myself until like a month after I got out of rehab, but from then until this past December, so for like a year, I was a dry drunk. And a dry drunk means that you're sober, however you still have the mindset of an alcoholic, and you still have the thoughts of an alcoholic, you know? So I was a dry drunk for a year and wasn't really getting better. Obviously, that's why I relapsed. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily my choice in the beginning, but now I have decided that I genuinely need help because it's going to ruin my life again, so I need to keep up with it. Next question is, has anybody motivated you to stay sober, or did you do it for yourself? This question is kind of hard just because, like, when I first got sober, it wasn't for me. It was for my girlfriend, because one of the main things that happened with my addiction was we broke up, and that wasn't very fun. After I got out of rehab and I started talking to my girlfriend again, I realized that if I genuinely wanted to continue the relationship with her and wanted to be happy with her, then I needed to figure something out and genuinely work on myself. So I stopped drinking for her. And now I think the main thing, because I think that definitely did help me get sober in the beginning, but it isn't necessarily good to want to be sober for somebody else, because then your entire sobriety just revolves around them. So you do have to learn to want to be sober for yourself, and I have learned that now, and that's where I am at right now. But in the beginning, it was mainly for my relationship. Speaking of relationships, have any relationships ended during your drinking? Yes. Me and my girlfriend, and a lot of friends, but me and my girlfriend are not back together because I got some help and I figured some stuff out. This question now is kind of the same thing. It's what motivated you to stay sober, but I'm gonna answer this for my most recent relapse and why I want to stay sober this time. Basically, I have been in a really not a good place with my mental health and my mental illness, just like a more motivated and want to work on myself more. And after my last relapse, that just really put a lot into perspective, because it was a really, really, really bad relapse, and I just realized that I am not gonna get anywhere, I'm not gonna get better, and that drinking was my solution to my mental illnesses and my struggles with that, and neither of those are going to get better if I just continue on the way that I am. So that has been helpful. I'm just trying to keep in that mindset that, like, if I don't help myself, then nothing else is going to help, you know? Next question is, what keeps you dedicated to recovery when it feels impossible? This question is, I feel like I have like a couple answers. I think the main one is just like thinking about what my life could be and how much better it could be in the future if I am not drinking, and I think that that is helpful to think about. And also just thinking about like my relationships, saying how everybody in my life is important to me and I don't want to lose them, so I can do everything I can to not lose them. Also, I feel like I have created this little community on TikTok surrounded by my recovery and my positive outlook on recovery, and I'm kind of scared to relapse. Like, obviously I don't want to relapse, but if it happens, I'm like just kind of like scared and worried about like that little community, so that also keeps me motivated. So I love you all. In what ways have you seen the best changes? For me personally, I feel like the best changes have been, one, in, well, my relationships obviously, and two, in the sense that I was in therapy all throughout high school. I've been in therapy since I was 6, but I wasn't doing the work in high school because I was drinking, and that was the only thing that I was focused on, and I would go to therapy sessions drunk. I wouldn't do anything, and it just got in the way of me working on my mental illnesses, which was something that I needed to do so badly, especially now after I got diagnosed with BPD. I need to work on DBT so often, and I think the most positive thing is that it gave me the opportunity to start genuinely working on myself without having that in the way. Next question is, do you feel better physically? And this is a hard one just because I was a very functional drunk. I went to school, went to therapy, I was very functional, so I never felt any physical effects. I feel I did mess up my liver, but like nothing extreme, I feel. So physically I feel like there's not many changes. Okay, my camera died, so I had to get another battery. But next question, have you been grieving your past self, your life when you could drink, and if so, how are you coping with it? I definitely do grieve my past life, and I feel a lot of guilt. Another question was, how do you deal with guilt? And I think that goes along with this. I feel a lot of guilt just for how I was in my life when I was drinking, and it just hurts to think about, but also at the same time I kind of miss that point just because, like, I don't even really know how to explain it. Like, drinking was just a big part of my life for the longest time, and it's just hard getting to know how to work life without it, you know, how to get through life without it, how to get through life sober. It's also very difficult just because I am a young alcoholic, so people are going to turn 21, my friends are going to turn 21 this year, and I'm just going to be here. I think the main way that I cope with it is just trying to remind myself how much better my life is without drinking, or not even necessarily better, because we all say that like that made our life better, that was a positive thing, that helped us get through so many things, and it did, but it didn't help us get to the root of the problem. And I think whenever I try to tell myself that I miss it and that I want to go back to it, I'm like, no, that's just a mask, a band-aid. You need to actually work on your stuff. What are the top things that keep you committed to sobriety even when you're feeling demotivated or triggered? The main thing is having a community, like in AA meetings or on TikTok. Having a community that is there for you and is your support system is so helpful, because I think the main thing when I would tell myself it's okay to drink is I would tell myself that I'm alone and that no one would care and that it wouldn't matter to anyone. And I'm realizing that I do have a support system and people do care about me, so that helps so much. And I try to remind myself that, way easier said than done, but I try to remind myself that quite often, that I do have people and I have people I can lean on. So that helps me stay committed to sobriety, because before I used to just like constantly tell myself that I was alone, that nobody would care. But when I remind myself that people do care, I'm like, okay, so it's good that I'm staying sober. This is a positive thing. Next question is, what is your go-to activity thing to do when you feel like relapsing? For me, the main thing is just getting out of the environment. Like, the main points where I want to relapse is when I'm home. And so I like to just get in my car, go drive somewhere, sit in my car, or go to my girlfriend's house, pick up my best friend. Just getting out of that environment is the best option for me, because if I stay in this environment, even if I try to do other coping skills, there is still the substances, and I just need to physically get out. Next question is, what is something you do to distract yourself from the cravings of alcohol? And this, well, one of the things, like I said, getting out of the environment, but two, calling a friend, just having a distraction, like a main, like be physically doing something. Or sometimes if I like feel like I can't do things, I will just cuddle up in bed and watch like a comfort show, listen to a comfort podcast, comfort music. Just focusing on one thing and putting all of your attention into that distraction and just waiting for the urge to pass, because the most important thing is dealing with that moment and that urge and being able to let it pass. And way easier said than done, but it's important to find that one distraction that you can fully throw yourself into and get all your focus on that. So that's been helpful, just finding any type of distraction that you can fully participate in. Next question is, how do you stop a relapse coming on? And this is a good question, because it's kind of the same thing, but for this, I would say if I genuinely feel like I am about to relapse, because there's a difference between having like the really bad cravings and then being in such a crisis where you're almost going to do it. And in that moment, what I do is I will go to a meeting, and go to a 24/7 one, because those ones run all the time. There's a women's 24/7 one that I go to whenever I feel like relapsing, because it's always there. The one that my home group is only at 6:30, but the women's one is 24/7, so whenever I do feel like relapsing, I can go to that. Then the next thing would just be to call somebody and at least tell them. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, come over here, stop me. Just at least tell them so they're aware and they can be there for you and look out for you. Also, yeah, just big distractions, but I think the main thing is like telling somebody and going to a meeting, because that's super important. Meetings are there to help you, and just getting to a meeting when you feel like relapsing is going to be extremely beneficial because the people there will support you. Next question, on to questions about AA meetings. First question is, what are AA meetings? Basically, AA stands for Alcoholics Anonymous. It is there's lots of meetings that you can go to. It basically is just for anyone who wants to stop drinking. That is the main rule of AA, just for anybody who wants to stop drinking. AA meetings are just meetings where alcoholics can go, share, help each other stay sober. Next question is, what generally happens in an AA meeting? And all AA meetings are completely different. They all have like a different topic, different format of meetings. Some are just open sharing. Some are 12-step studies where you just go over the 12 steps. Some are just big book studies where you just read the big book and talk about it. The one that I go to, the format is someone will speak or read for 20 minutes and then it's open to sharing, and I feel like that's how a lot of them are, but it just depends on what the topic of that meeting is for that specific meeting. Like the one that I go to, the topics are different every night, but for like the big book one, you would be talking about the big book every night. And so every AA meeting has a different structure, but for the main part, somebody kind of like picks a topic and then you base the meeting around that. Next question is, have your AA meetings been positive for you? I have had both negative and positive experiences with AA meeting. It just all depends on the meeting that you go to and just finding the right type of meeting. I used to go to it was just called Nooners, like, 'cause it was just at noon, and it was nice, but I just felt like I couldn't relate to anybody in the room and I just felt kind of left out. So I went to another one, which was a newcomers one, because I was a newcomer, and that one, it was helpful for like the first month that I was sober, and like this most recent time for the first month, but then I felt like I needed something more specific and like something that I can more relate to, and so I found the young adults meeting, and that has been a completely positive experience. I absolutely love it. The people, the atmosphere in the Zoom meeting, everybody's just so nice, and it's very, very, very helpful hearing from other alcoholics, other young alcoholics, and I love it. Next question is, are AA meetings awkward, or is it awkward to share? I used to feel like it was the most awkward thing in the entire world, because I was like, how are these people sharing their struggles about alcohol with random strangers? Because I'm an open book, but my struggles with alcohol are always something that's difficult to talk about with people, because I feel weird as a young alcoholic. But when I shared the last time, it felt so good, and I realized that I had been worrying about nothing, because it wasn't awkward at all. Like, I shared, it felt like a weight had been lifted off of my chest, and it was so nice. So not awkward at all. It's very helpful to share, and also nobody's there to judge you, because nobody can talk back to each other. Like, you share what you need to share, and then the next person goes. There's no crosstalk, so that's very helpful. Next question is, what changes in the dynamic of AA meetings in person versus online? And I have only been to a couple in-person AA meetings, just because they were in rehab when I was there, and so it wasn't like an actual AA meeting because it wasn't like the full program. But I would say that it definitely is way less nerve-wracking in Zoom meetings, because you're not around everybody, and I think at least that has been helpful for me, just because I have really severe social anxiety, so that's something that I struggle with, and the online meetings are helpful because I can turn my camera off and people don't see me. But in-person meetings, I definitely want to try going back, because I think it could be helpful if I find the right one. So yeah, but I definitely think it's way less nerve-wracking on Zoom, but could be more beneficial in person, because I feel like a lot of things are more beneficial in person, but just way less nerve-wracking on Zoom. Those are all of the questions that I have and that I'm going to answer. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Not that I like talking about addiction, but I like sharing my story and sharing my experiences so other young alcoholics can relate and know that they're not alone, because I know that when I was struggling, I kept telling myself that I wasn't an alcoholic, because you couldn't be an alcoholic when you're young. I thought alcoholics were like 40-year-old men, and it's very helpful to hear from somebody else who's going through the same thing. So I hope this helps you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do not forget to like and comment on this video and subscribe to my channel. Again, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Bye bye. I love you.